for joining What Does the Writing Block Look Like? Part of our Good Practices in Writing series. So today we're going to discuss what we do in our writing block. But to begin with, the writing block is one part of a comprehensive literacy or English language arts and literature instructional structure. Within that, we also have a reading block, a word work or word study block, and then our writing block. Within this block, we have a mini lesson with a clear teaching point, independent writing time, during which time, as in the reading block, the teacher is working with small groups and individuals to differentiate instruction and meet students' needs. At the end of this time, there is a sharing opportunity. I do want to share with you the guiding principles of a writing block. This comes from the work of Carl Anderson and Matt Glover in their latest book, How to Become a Better Writing Teacher. Students need time to learn to write well, practice writing, and develop the habits of writers. They need to have ownership so that engagement is higher. Motivation is higher when they are given the opportunity to make choices about their writing, including what to write about, genre, at times, and how to craft their writing. Engagement also increases when the mentor text that we use reflects students' interests and identities. Students need responses to their writing from audiences that matter to them. Teaching that is responsive to their needs as a writer, as well as to the content of their writing. Relationships. As with all learning, students learn best when there is a connection between the teacher and the student. We have to know them as people and as writers. We want to build meaningful learning opportunities for students that are authentic and reflect real-world writing. We vary genres, give students time to write about topics and purposes that are meaningful to them, study examples of the genres that they're learning about, teach craft techniques and writing strategies. Teachers need to have a knowledge base about how to teach writing, not how to assign writing. This includes teachers being knowledgeable about craft techniques, having strategies for the writing process, and how we use conventions. Also, how to use oral language, illustrations, and text as part of their compositional thinking. We need to have a progression of instruction. As the teacher, you know your students the best. You are best positioned to take the learning outcomes and the cusps and break them down in a progression that works for your students day by day. Students need mentor authors. So we need to use mentor texts, which can be from experienced writers or published writers. We can also use text from other students and our own writing. Our mini lessons address the needs of most of the students in the classroom, as well as curricular outcomes. However, not all students have the same needs. We differentiate our instruction by conferencing with individuals and grouping students with similar needs together for small group instruction. When we do this, we are able to target our instruction to the variety of writers in our classrooms. We start with student strengths. We need to know what they can already do. Then we can decide on next steps for our instruction. We always nudge them or teach within the zone of proximal development. Writing involves explicit teaching. We need to show them, we need to tell them what we are doing, and we need to be explicit about what it is they are learning. Our goal in writing, as with all of our teaching, is to teach towards independence. We will not always be there. I have always had the mantra of it's not what they know, it's not what they can do, but it is what they do. And finally, we have to live what we teach. Linda Dorfman says, almost nothing does more to sustain a culture of writing than a teacher who writes with students, thereby underscoring the importance of writing and also allowing students to see the process or one writer's version of it as it unfolds. So what does our time look like in a writing block? We have the mini lesson, which when we think of the gradual release of responsibility is the I do part of our lesson. Then we have the writing work time in which some students will be engaged in small group work or individual conferences with you, and all students will be writing independently. This is where we have the we do part of our the gradual release model and also the you do part. And we end with a short share time. So the process approach to writing is based on decades of research. Donald Murray studied the way writers work. The writing process is at play in all the writing we do, and we see it reflected in the cusps within the new ELAL curriculum. Within the writing process, we move between stages throughout the entire process until we reach the finished piece. In the rehearsal, this often takes place away from the page, and it all begins with the belief that we are writers. Students in grades 3 and up may be collecting entries in their notebooks, and this would be a place where we would be trying out aspects of writing, but not drafting. Drafting is done quickly at first, and we use loose leaf for that, writing on only one side of the page to make revision easier. When we revise, we shift from being a writer to a reader. We teach them strategies for revision, and it's also where grammar instruction can take place. Revising is not the same as editing. When we revise, we are making our writing better or more clear. When we edit, we are looking at the spelling and punctuation aspects of writing. When we get to the publishing phase, we will do this, have students produce a more correct version or form of their writing periodically. And we always assess the final independent copy, which may not be the actual published piece if that has gone through a lot of teacher editing and a lot of perfecting. So we want to assess what they're able to do on their own. The mini lesson is a crux of our teaching. They are 10 to 12 minutes in length, short bursts of explicit teaching, and there is a structure to them. Within a mini lesson, we have the connection, a teaching point, the teach part, active engagement, and the link. Please see the accompanying document for information on each component of the mini lesson. This is a planning document that I like to use in which I lay out all the parts of the mini lesson. I only write on a 3x3 sticky note. You cannot have more than one sticky note and they cannot be bigger. This helps you to keep your lessons brief and to ensure that you are explicit in your teaching. I also have the share that comes at the end of the lesson on this. You will find this document in an accompanying piece. Individual conferences and small group instruction are essential for meeting the needs of individuals. Carl Anderson says, conferring is not the icing on the cake, it is the cake, and it is where we see the art of teaching. There are 3 types of conferences. There is a complement conference, which I always begin the year with, a research, decide, and teach conference, and also coaching conferences. On the following 3 slides, you will have an outline of each of the 3 types of conferences. Small group work is when we gather a group of 3 to 4 students together and we work with them for 5 to 8 minutes at the most. The purpose is for practice or to teach skills that our assessment have been found to be a need based on assessment. There is also a structure for small groups. We teach for 2 to 3 minutes. Students engage in active engagement while the teacher coaches. And finally, there is a link, as in our mini lessons. When we are planning for our small group, we want to ensure that we have an explicit teaching point. So we might say, begin by saying something like, "You are here today because." Then we decide on how we are going to teach. Are we going to explain or are we going to demonstrate? Is there a tool we need to leave them with? And finally, we think about what is the practice going to look like? Will we practice orally or will they do writing? Try not to plan longer than it takes to deliver so that it is more apt you will be to have small group instruction. And finally, at the very end of our writing block, we have a share session. We want this to be short, 3 to 5 minutes. We might remind students of the day's work. Students could do a gallery walk of other students' writing. We could have a symphony share, and it could also be instructional, where we might share another tip or set students up for the next day's work. Please be sure to check back on the ARPDC website for more videos and resources in the Good Practices series.